Hello YIS Media family. Hello book lovers. How are you? Today we present to you an excerpt from a great book titled Make Today Count by John C. Maxwell. Subscribe to the media, like and share the video, and if you have an opinion on the story, leave it in the comment section. Thank you. Now directly to the narrative. Introduction. Make today a masterpiece. How would you describe your life? Are you achieving what you desire? Are you accomplishing the things that are important to you? Do you consider yourself a success? How do your prospects look for the future? If I could come to your house and spend just one day with you, I would be able to tell whether or not you will be successful. You could pick the day. If I got up with you in the morning and went through the day with you, watching you for 24 hours, I could tell in what direction your life is headed. When I tell this to people at conferences, there's always a strong reaction. Some people are surprised. Some get defensive, because they think I would be making a snap judgment about them. A few get ticked off because they think my claim sounds arrogant. Others are simply intrigued and desire to know why I make such a statement. The answer lies in the fact that the secret of your success is determined by your daily agenda. If you make a few key decisions and then manage them well in your daily agenda, you will succeed. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. You see, success doesn't just suddenly occur one day in someone's life. For that matter, neither does failure. Each is a process. Every day of your life is merely preparation for the next. What you become is the result of what you do today. In other words, you are preparing for something. The way you live your life today is preparing you for your tomorrow. The question is, what are you preparing for? Are you grooming yourself for success or failure? As my father used to tell me when I was growing up, you can pay now and play later, or you can play now and pay later. But either way, you are going to pay. The idea was that you can play and take it easy and do what you want today, but if you do, your life will be harder later. However, if you work hard now, on the front end, then you will reap rewards in the future.
The makings of a masterpiece. You can make every day of your life a masterpiece. Isn't that idea appealing? The question is, how? What does it take? I believe there are two ingredients necessary to make every day a masterpiece: decisions and discipline. They are like two sides of the same coin. You could call them goal setting and goal getting. And they can't be separated because one is worthless without the other. I say that because good decisions, daily discipline equals a plan without a payoff. Daily discipline, good decisions equals regimentation without reward. Good decisions plus daily discipline equals a masterpiece of potential. Time is an equal opportunity employer, but how we treat time is not equal. Time is like a block of marble. Give a block of marble to an average person, and you end up with a block of marble. But put it in the hands of a master sculptor, and watch what happens. The sculptor looks at it with an artist's eye. First, he makes decisions about what it will be. Then he practices the disciplines of his craft until he has transformed lifeless stone into a masterpiece. I believe you and I can become like the sculptor. We can learn to become master craftsmen, not of stone but of our lives.
Good decisions today will give you a better tomorrow. It seems obvious that good decisions help to create a better tomorrow, yet many people don't appear to connect their lack of success to their poor decision making. Some people make choices, then experience negative consequences, yet wonder why they can't seem to get ahead in life. They never figure it out. Others know their choices may not be good for them, but they make them anyway. Such is the case with the alcoholic who keeps drinking excessively or the person who engages in One abusive relationship after another. Nobody says that good decisions are always simple, but they are necessary for success. Theodore Hesburgh, former president of Notre Dame University, admonished, "You don't make decisions because they're easy. You don't make decisions because they're cheap. You don't make decisions because they're popular. You make decisions because they're right. You begin to build a better life by determining to make good decisions, but that alone is not enough. You need to know what decisions to make." I've given the subject a lot of thought, talked to many successful people, and narrowed down the list of critical areas for success to 12. I call them the daily dozen. 1. Attitude, choose and display the right attitude daily. 2. Priorities, determine and act on important priorities daily. 3. Health, know and follow healthy guidelines daily. 4. Family, communicate with and care for my family daily. 5. Thinking, practice and develop good thinking daily. 6. Commitment, make and keep proper commitments daily. 7. Finances, make and properly manage dollars daily. 8. Faith, deepen and live out my faith daily. 9. Relationships, initiate and invest in solid relationships daily. 10. Generosity, plan for and model generosity daily. 11. Values, embrace and practice good values daily. 12. Growth, seek and experience improvements daily. If you settle these 12 issues by making the right decision in each area and then work to manage those decisions daily, you can be successful.
Attitude. I discovered the importance of attitude in 1964 when I was 17 years old. My high school basketball coach, Don Neff, took me aside at the beginning of my senior season and told me that he wanted me to be captain of the team. I was excited, but I was also a little surprised, because I knew that my teammate John Thomas was a better player than I was. But then Coach Neff said something that explained it. "John," he said, "you have the best attitude on the team, and it influences the other players." Just a few weeks later, I was named Citizen of the Month at my school. Why? Once again, it was because of my attitude. My teachers said they loved my attitude. Then it sank in. My attitude was making a difference in my life. And it was making an impact on the people around me. That's when I made my attitude decision. I am going to keep a positive attitude and use it to influence others. Many people in this world mistakenly believe their attitude is set. It has become such a habit for them that they believe it can't be changed. They see it as one of the cards of life they've been dealt, such as height or a history of cancer in the family. But that's not true.
Making the decision to choose and display the right attitude daily. Your attitude is a choice. If you desire to make your day a masterpiece, then you need to have a great attitude. If it's not good now, you need to change it. Make the decision. Here's how.
Take responsibility for your attitude. After my wife, Margaret, and I had been married for 4 or 5 years, we went to a conference for pastors where I had been asked to be one of the speakers. Margaret also agreed to do a breakout session for spouses. Speaking is not a passion for her as it is for me. She does a good job, but she doesn't really enjoy it that much. I wanted to support her, so I attended her session. During the Q&A time, a woman stood up and asked, "Does John make you happy?" I have to say, I was really looking forward to hearing Margaret's answer. I'm an attentive husband, and I love Margaret dearly. What kind of praise would she lavish on me? Does John make me happy? She considered. No, he doesn't. I looked to see where the closest exit was. The first 2 or 3 years we were married, she continued, I thought it was John's job to make me happy. But he didn't. He wasn't mean to me or anything. He's a good husband. But nobody can make another person happy. That was my job. As a young newlywed in her early 20s, she figured out something some people never learn. Each of us must take responsibility for our own attitude. If you want today to be a good day, you need to take charge of the way you look at it.
Decide to change your bad attitude areas. I've read the Peanuts comic strip for years, and I've always been a big fan. I recall one strip in which Lucy announces, "Boy, do I feel crabby." Her little brother, Linus, always anxious to relieve tension at home, responds, "Maybe I can be of help. Why don't you just take my place here in front of the TV while I go and fix you a nice snack?" Sometimes we all need a little pampering to help us feel better. Then Linus brings her a sandwich, a few chocolate chip cookies, and some milk. "Now, is there anything else I can get you?" he asks. "Is there anything I haven't thought of?" "Yes, there's one thing you haven't thought of," Lucy answers. And then she suddenly screams, "I don't want to feel better." For the many years the late Charles Schulz drew Peanuts. That always seemed to be one of Lucy's problems. She didn't want to change in the areas where she had a bad attitude, and she had a lot of them. Many people are like her. I mentioned that there are things in your life you cannot choose, such as your parents, where you were born, or your race. But your attitude is something you can change. And just about everybody has at least a few areas in their thinking that could use some help. If you want to have a better day, then you need to go after those areas.
Think, act, talk, and conduct yourself like the person you want to become. If you've been to any kind of class reunion 10 or more years after graduation, then you've probably been surprised by the transformation of one of your former classmates, the misfit who became a famous lawyer, the plain Jane who blossomed into a movie star, or the geek who founded a major corporation. How do such transformations occur? Those people changed how they thought of themselves. You saw them as they were. Or how you thought they were. They saw themselves as they could be. Then they learned to act like and acquire the skills of the people they wanted to be. The transformation usually takes time. Often it's barely noticeable to those who see them every day, just as parents don't see changes in babies the way others do. But to someone who hasn't seen them in 10, 20, or 30 years, the transformation seems miraculous. Like a butterfly from a caterpillar. If you desire to change yourself, then start with your mind. Believe you can improve, that you can change into the person you desire to be. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us." If your thinking changes, then everything else can follow.
Place a high value on people. One of the secrets of maintaining a good attitude is valuing people. You can't dislike people and have a good attitude at the same time. Think about it. Have you ever met anyone who always treated people badly but had a positive attitude? Likewise, you cannot have a bad attitude and encourage others at the same time. Encouraging others means helping people, looking for the best in them, and trying to bring out their positive qualities. That process drives negative thoughts right out of your head. Your interaction with others sets the tone of your day. It's like the music of your life. When your interaction with others is poor, it's like having to listen to cacophonous music. But when you place a high value on people and you treat them well, it's like listening to a sweet melody as you go through your day.
Develop a high appreciation for life. Have you ever known people who complain about everything? Their soup's too hot. Their bed's too cold. Their vacation's too short. Their pay's too low. You sit side by side with them at a magnificent banquet, and while you enjoy every morsel, they tell you what's wrong with each and every dish. Such people don't appreciate life no matter how good it gets. A friend emailed to me the story of a very together and independent 92-year-old lady who was moving into a nursing home. Since she was legally blind and her husband of 70 years had passed away, the move was her only option. She waited in the lobby of the facility for a long time before finally being told that her room was ready. As she was escorted down the corridor, her attendant described the room. Down to the curtains hung on the windows. I love it, the elderly lady enthused. But you haven't even seen the room yet. Just wait, the attendant responded. That doesn't have anything to do with it, she replied. Happiness is something you decide on ahead of time. Whether I like my room or not doesn't depend on how the furniture is arranged. It's how I arrange my mind. Appreciation isn't a matter of taste or sophistication. It's a matter of perspective. John Wooden said, things turn out best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out. The place to start is with the little things. If you can learn to appreciate them and be grateful for them, you'll appreciate the big things as well as everything in between.
Managing the discipline of attitude. If you want to benefit from the possibilities of a positive attitude, you need to do more than just make the decision to be positive. You also have to manage that decision. For me, in the area of attitude, it means one thing: every day I will make the adjustments necessary to keep my attitude right. If this is new territory for you, you may be wondering how to do it. Here are some guidelines to help you on your way.
Recognize that your attitude needs daily adjustments. I've discovered that a person's attitude does not naturally or easily stay positive. For example, a lifelong attitude weakness I've had is my impatience with people. It was a problem even back when I was young. In school, when the teacher set aside a day to review before the final exam, I got dirty looks when I asked, if we got it the first time, do we still have to come for the review? And I still fight impatience. Every day I ask myself, have I been impatient with someone? When I have, I apologize to the person. I've had to do that more times than I'd like to admit. Like any discipline, your attitude will not take care of itself. That's why it needs to be attended to daily. The stronger your natural inclination to be pessimistic or critical, the more attention your attitude will need. Begin each day with an attitude check. And watch for red flags signaling that your attitude might be in trouble.
Find something positive in everything. Not long ago I came across a prayer that I thought was wonderful. It said, Dear Lord, so far today, I am doing all right. I have not gossiped, lost my temper, been greedy, grumpy, nasty, selfish, or self-indulgent. I have not whined, cursed, or eaten any chocolate. However, I am going to get out of bed in a few minutes. And I will need a lot more help after that. Amen. It may not always be easy, but if you try hard enough, you can find something good, even in the midst of difficult situations. In Laugh Again, my friend Chuck Swindoll explains that when Mother Teresa was asked the requirements for people assisting in her work with the destitute in Calcutta, she cited two things: the desire to work hard and a joyful attitude. If someone could be expected to be joyful among the dying and the poorest of the poor, then certainly we can do the same in our situation.
Find someone positive in every situation. Nothing helps a person to remain positive like having an ally. The world is filled with negative people, in fact, they often flock together. But positive people are everywhere, too. You'll often find them soaring above the negative people like eagles. When you do, seek them out. If you're having a hard time, get close and draft behind them the way racers do. If they're having difficulty, you be the one to go out front and make things easier. Two positive people are much better at fighting off the blues than someone going it alone.
Say something positive in every conversation. I've tried to make it a habit to include positive comments in every conversation with others. It starts with those closest to me. When my wife looks beautiful, which is often, I tell her so. I compliment my children every time I see them. And I absolutely pour out praise every time I see my grandchildren. But I don't stop there. I sincerely compliment, praise, acknowledge, bolster, raise up, and reward people whenever I Can. It's wonderful for me as well as for others. I highly recommend it, and I know you can learn to do it, too.
Remove negative words from your vocabulary. My father retired in his mid-70s, but he has spent his entire life in public speaking. He came from a modest background, so he was always working hard to learn and grow. When I was a kid, he used to pay my brother, Larry, and me 10 cents for every grammatical mistake we found him making when he was preaching. It was just one example of how he was constantly trying to improve himself. I suspect he also did it so that we would learn more about grammar ourselves. You can do a similar kind of thing when it comes to your attitude. You or someone you enlist can be on the lookout for negative words in your vocabulary so that you can try to eliminate them. Here's a list to get you started.
Your attitude decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to your attitude today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to choose and display the right attitude daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your attitude discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning attitude, what is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
Priorities. When I first graduated from college and began my career, I was not working according to my own agenda. Back in the 1960s when I studied for the ministry, the majority of my course work had prepared me to do counseling and administration. So, when I began working in 1969, guess what I spent most of my time doing? That's right, counseling and administration. Nothing could have been further from my natural gifts or my natural inclinations. Despite much hard work, I was neither fulfilled nor effective. Because I wanted to improve myself and pick up skills I didn't learn in college, in 1971 I began working on a business degree. While reading for one of the courses, I came across a paragraph written about Italian economist Vilfredo Pareto. It contained information about prioritizing called the Pareto principle. It said that by focusing your attention on the top 20% of all your priorities, you would get an 80% return on your effort. That was my eureka moment. That's when I made this decision. I will prioritize my life and give focus and energy to those things that give the highest return. I never looked at myself or my work in the same way again. I realized that I needed to focus 80% of my time, energy, and resources on my areas of strength, not on counseling and administration. Those activities were not bad things. They were just bad things for me. From the moment I made that decision, I have been a practitioner of the Pareto principle, and I have taught it to others for 33 years. If you want to read a more in-depth treatment of the Pareto principle, read my book Developing the Leader Within You. Most of the time this has kept me focused and on track. Although when I first began applying the principle, the results sometimes were not what I had intended. Margaret and I still laugh about the time she asked me to start helping her mow the lawn. Margaret, I said, having just learned Pareto, I don't want to waste time on something like that. I'm trying to stay focused. We can pay somebody to do that. Margaret looked at me and replied, pay with what? We worked it out, but it was a defining moment for us. From that time on, I have tried to focus on those things that are important and not get sidetracked. Making the decision to determine and act on important priorities daily. If you want to change the way you look at yourself and what you do by making a decision concerning your priorities, then do the following. Take back today. Have you ever noticed that the people who have nothing to do usually want to spend their time with you? Poet Carl Sandburg said, time is the most valuable coin in your life. You and you alone will determine how that coin will be spent. Be careful that you do not let other people spend it for you. Your greatest possession is the 24 hours you have directly ahead of you. How will you spend it? Will you give in to pressure or focus on priorities? Will you allow pointless emails, unimportant tasks, telemarketers, interruptions, and other distractions to consume your day? Or will you take complete responsibility for how you spend your time, take control of the things you can, and make today yours? If you don't decide how your day will be spent, someone else will. Ask yourself 3 questions. No daily dozen issue has added more to my success than the principle of priorities. When I discovered that I needed to change my approach to my day and my career, I started by asking myself 3 critical questions. 1. What is required of me? Any realistic assessment of priorities in any area of life must start with a realistic assessment of what a person must do. For you to be a good spouse or parent, what is required of you? 2. Satisfy your employer, what must you do? If you lead others, then the question should be, what must you personally do that cannot be delegated to anyone else? When ordering priorities, always start with the requirement question and give it careful thought before moving on to the next question. 2. What gives me the greatest return? As you progress in your career, you begin to discover that some activities yield a much higher return for the effort than others do. Anyone who hasn't discovered that probably isn't progressing in his career. The next place to focus your attention is on those high return activities. 3. What gives me the greatest reward? If you do only what you must and what is effective, you will be highly productive, but you may not be content. I think it's also important to consider what gives you personal satisfaction. However, I find that some people want to start with the reward question and go no further than that. No one can be successful who doesn't possess the discipline to take care of the first 2 areas before adding the third. Philosopher William James said, "The art of being wise is the art of knowing what to overlook." If you bring your priorities into focus by answering those 3 questions, you will have a much better idea of what you should overlook. Stay in your strength zone. People don't pay for average. People don't go looking for a mediocre restaurant and middling movie when they go out at night. Employers don't award the contract to the salesman known as Mr. Average. Nobody says, let's give the contract to the company that will do a merely adequate job. It was a great day in my church when I stopped counseling people and stopped getting bogged down in administrative details. But finding my strength zone took some time and exploration. If you don't already have a good handle on your strengths, then you may want to explore some of these suggestions. They're based on what I did to find mine. Trial and error, nothing teaches you more than your successes and failures. Anytime something seems to be all trial, and you make a lot of mistakes, it's probably time to move on. But you've got to take the risk of failing to find your successes. The counsel of others, asking others to evaluate your effectiveness is not always fun, but it is always helpful. Be sure to choose people who don't have an agenda other than to help you. Personality tests, evaluations, such as DISC, Florence Littauer's personality profile, and Myers-Briggs, can be very helpful. They will help to clarify some of your natural inclinations and help to reveal some strengths and weaknesses you aren't aware of. Personal experience, you really get a feel for how well you do something by doing it repeatedly. Just remember this: experience isn't always the best teacher evaluated. Experience is. British Prime Minister William Gladstone said, "He is a wise man who wastes no energy on pursuits for which he is not fitted, and he is wiser still who from among the things he can do well, chooses and resolutely follows the best. The more you stay in your strength zone, the greater your productivity, and the greater your ability to reach your potential. Managing the discipline of priorities. One of the things I noticed very quickly after making my priorities decision was that priorities shift very easily. For that reason, they must be continually evaluated and guarded. My reminder to manage the discipline of priorities is this: every day I will live my life according to my priorities. What does that mean? 5 things. 1. Evaluate priorities daily. A man went to the Super Bowl and climbed to the top row in the end zone section of the stadium to reach his seat. After the game started, he spotted an empty seat on the 50-yard line. After working his way down to it, he asked the man in the next seat, "Excuse me, but is anyone sitting here?" "No," replied the man. "Actually, the seat belongs to me. I was supposed to come with my wife, but she died. This is the first Super Bowl we haven't been to together since we got married in 1967. That's very sad. But still, couldn't you find anyone else to take the seat, a relative or close friend?" "No," replied the man, "they're all at the funeral." Priorities don't stay put, you have to revisit them every day. Why? Because conditions continually change. So do methods of getting things done. Your values, once defined, are going to be steady. You will be able to rely on them. But how you carry them out needs to be flexible. 2. Plan your time carefully. According to a survey taken by Daytimers, Inc., only 1/3 of American workers plan their daily schedules. And only 9% follow through and complete what they planned. If you want to be effective, you must be able to make the transition to planning. I plan my calendar 40 days at a time. But when I get ready to approach a day, I have the whole thing laid out, hour by hour. It's a rare day that I get up in the morning wondering what I will be doing that day, even when on vacation. 3. Follow your plan. I don't mean to insult your intelligence by suggesting that you follow your plan, but it needs to be said. According to time management expert Alec McKenzie, surveys show that most executives don't get to their most important tasks until mid-afternoon. Why? Most finished off low-priority tasks so that they could have a sense of accomplishment. 1. German novelist Johann Wolfgang von Goethe said, "Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of things that matter least." If you prioritize your life and plan your day, but don't follow through, your results will be the same as those of someone who didn't prioritize at all. 4. Delegate whenever possible. I've observed that most people fall into one of 2 categories when it comes to delegation: they're either clingers or dumpers. Clingers refuse to let go of anything they think is important, whether they are the best person to do it or not. Their goal is perfection. Dumpers are quick to get rid of tasks, yet give little thought to how successful their delegation efforts will be. Their goal is to get things off their desk. How do you find the right standard for delegation? When is it right to hand something off, and when is it right to hold on to it? Here's the guideline I use: if someone else can do a task I'm doing 80% as well as I do, then I hand it off. That's pretty darn good. And if I do a good job of motivating, encouraging, and rewarding them, then they will only get better. I've handed off responsibilities using that standard, and after a while, the person who's taken on the job has gone on to do it much better than I could. When that happens, it's very rewarding. Today I am surrounded by people on my team who do things much better than I can. They make up the difference in my weak areas, and they exceed my expectations in others. They lift me to a level higher than I could ever attain myself. And they allow me to live out my priorities. The advice of management expert Peter Drucker is good. No executive has ever suffered because his subordinates were strong and effective. 5. Invest in the right people daily. There's one more area I want to address in the area of priorities, and that's the need to prioritize how we spend time with people. My friend Waylon Moore has observed that often we spend priority time with problem people when we should be spending it with potential people. I think that's true. How do you decide whom to spend time with? Certainly, you want to treat everyone with respect and try to have a good, positive relationship with everyone. But you should not spend time with everyone equally. Here's what I use to evaluate where to invest my time. Value to the team. Natural ability. Responsibility. Timing. Potential. Mentoring fit. The time you spend with others can be a great investment. Choose whom you will invest in, and then add value to them on a consistent basis. You will never regret it. Your priorities decision today. Where do you stand when it comes to priorities today? Ask yourself these 3 questions. 1. Have I already made the decision to determine and act on important priorities daily? 2. If so, when did I make that decision? 3. What exactly did I decide? Your priorities discipline every day. Based on the decision you made concerning priorities, what is the one discipline you must practice today and every day in order to be successful?
This is the end of Chapter 1 of John C. Maxwell's book entitled Listeners Make Today Count. Dear members of the YIS Media family, we sincerely hope that you are happy with the story. Give us credit for your sacrifice of time and follow-up. Stay safe until we meet in the second part of the book.